This is GFree Radio. Here's your host, Peter Stewart.
Hello, welcome back after the Christmas and New Year break. I hope you had a really great time. Maybe we would have found you cooking or eating some new friendly food, and hopefully you avoided being glutened. And thanks for all the comments about our series of holiday specials. What did? We featured some various holiday treats in one of our programmes. There was our mini documentary on a GFree supper cup. And of course, last week we heard from Olympic cyclist Craig McLean about living gluten-free. Well, this week we start a new year, appropriately looking ahead at the expansion of the gluten-free market with a report that's confirmed the rise in production to match consumption. And we'll also start a new series on breakfasts and breakfast cereals. See what we did early in the year, early in the day food? Kind of ties together. And if one of your resolutions was to do more home cooking, then catch our interview with the husband and wife team who've set up two different kinds of GFree baking courses. Either you go to them, or, well, I suppose you could say they come to you. Hear more about that later on in the show. And our list this week is 10 ways to stay motivated on a gluten-free diet. We all need that, don't we, after the excesses of December and early January. And we continue our series from before the holiday break on alternative flours, this week comparing cornflour and maize flour. And I'm Peter Stewart. Thanks for the loan of your ears. So, as we know, the gluten-free market is growing and growing, as we've reported several times since we got going ourselves back in June of 2013. Gosh, it seems a long way away now, doesn't it? And a new report has come out from a company called Markets and Markets, which is a global market research and consulting company based in the United States. And they've published some new stats which have been republished on international.to that says the global gluten-free market is projected to reach a value of $6,206.2 million, growing at a compound annual rate of 10.2% by 2018. What do you think is the largest growth sector within that market? What do you reckon it is? Time up. Gluten-free bakery and confectionery products. Not really that difficult, was it, to guess for that? Accounted for the largest volume of share of about 46%, followed by gluten-free snacks that contributes about 20% in the gluten-free product market. North America contributes to about 59% of the share in the global GF product market. Highest consumption of GF products in the global market is through conventional sales channels, and I guess they mean through shops that you walk into rather than online. Chain stores have become a preferred retail channel for gluten-free products, and there's been a growth in the sales and assortment carried by the supermarkets and mass merchandisers. Well, certainly, I think my local supermarket chains that I go to, I've seen it being pretty flat. It did grow during the course of the year, but much more steadily than perhaps the range did over the previous couple of years. Certainly, I noticed a couple of the in-house ranges have dropped out of the market. Some of the individual products, they have been discontinued. Of course, notably this year we have seen Oodies. If you listen back or remember back to a previous podcast from GFree Radio, you'll remember that they are going to bring so many more products to market here in the UK in 2014, which is going to be really, really interesting to look at those and to try those as well. So we're going to be keeping an eye on the shelves. And I did see an Oodies in a Sainsbury's store recently. So they did launch originally in Tesco's, and now they are in other supermarkets as well, so look out for those. Now, this report goes on to say that the demand for new products and a variety of gluten-free products is increasing in the market. The existing companies are actively introducing new products, different ingredients and flavours, thereby, it says, understanding the needs of their consumers. Are they? They're really understanding the needs of our consumers? Because, again, what do we say? 46% of the largest volume of share of GFree products is bakery and confectionery products. And I think there is a huge market in the in the desserts area that has not been tapped at all, and also in the savoury product area. For example, I'm going to put down this report now. I'm going to have a little rant. For example, I don't know about you, but looking for some really nice desserts over Christmas, and I'm thinking about, some kind of nice ice creamy dessert, or maybe a roulade or an Eton mess or something. I know you can make them, but if you wanted them off the shelf, it's really difficult to find them gluten-free. Now, I know that certainly the last time I looked, not this last season, but previously, the British range of Cook, which is quite expensive actually, do pretty good gluten-free range, and I think their roulade was gluten-free. But certainly you can go to most supermarkets, and of course, a dessert roulade should really be, as I understand it, essentially meringue and cream, maybe flavoured meringue and fruit. Is that kind of combination, or nuts and that kind of thing. But several of them, in fact I'd say about 95% of the dessert roulade range invariably are made with wheat gluten. And you think, that should not be the case. Sometimes, once or twice, you will find one in a range by the same company that is okay to eat. Again, the desserts in the ice cream selection over Christmas I thought was very poor. And of course the baked things like, your baked apple pies and things like that, I think is very, very sadly lacking, as indeed are a larger range of savouries like the pies and so on. But anyway, enough about that. We're going to be hearing from, incidentally, a company that makes pies, gluten-free pies, Clive's Pies, in a few weeks' time. But back to this report by Markets and Markets. It goes on to say that developments in the global gluten-free market have been growing globally. It's been growing at a higher pace in North America and Europe, unsurprisingly perhaps, and they list these companies which are really pushing forward, some of which I'm aware of. The Hain Inc. in the US. Don't know the Hain. General Mills Inc. in the US. Of course, you may not necessarily know these names, but you probably know the products that on the shelves that they make. Dr. Shah in Italy, certainly that's well known over here. In the UK, obviously GFree Radio is a global brand itself, so obviously these are available elsewhere in Europe and North America and Australasia and so on. Amy's Kitchen, recently come to the UK, of course, but a US-based company, and of course Boulder's Brand Inc. In the United States, which is Udi's to all intents and purposes. That kind of backs up the previous comment that I was making about Udi's bringing more and more items to the marketplace in the UK. Okay, in a few moments' time, we're going to be hearing the first of our interviews, the husband and wife team, who have they've set up several courses, not for making individual items per se, but to encourage, to teach, to guide, very importantly, that's a very, very good word, to guide you through the process of being self-sufficient when it comes to baking and cooking gluten-free. I'll hear from Ian and Deborah in a few moments' time. But this little snippet of news, which kind of relates to that first one on GFree Radio a few moments ago. Shoppers opting for a gluten-free diet could be paying double at the checkout, experts say. Well, I don't think you need to be an expert to work out that if you shop gluten-free, you're paying double. In fact, I would have thought that many things are actually 3, 4, maybe even 5 or 6 times more expensive than their ordinary counterparts, wouldn't you say? I think there was a report by Celiac UK a couple of years back that said the biggest price differential, I believe, was in wraps. Interesting stuff. And certainly going back to the Christmas period, you would look at mince pies, for example, and you could get, certainly my local supermarket was selling 2 boxes of 4 mince pies for 99p. So 8 mince pies for £1. Okay? How much were you paying? Or how much did you see them on offer for the gluten-free range? Boy, oh boy, probably about £3 for 4. Yeah? They never come in the special offers, do they? When was the last time? When was the last time you saw a bog-off offer, buy one, get one free, a bog-off offer for a gluten-free item. Very, very rare. They may reduce it by price by a few pence. You may find a voucher or a token in a magazine or a leaflet that you've been sent. Never the bog-offs. Very, very disappointing. I understand why, but certainly from this side of the fence, as a consumer, it's very, very upsetting. This report says some 12 million Brits bought gluten-free food and drink last year. 12 million? 12 million Brits bought gluten-free food and drink last year. Out of a population of, 65 million? That's a very healthy or unhealthy percentage. You've got to ask yourself how many of those are actually celiac. Doesn't matter, of course. A basket of 10 free-from items, including bread, pasta and biscuits, cost £22.50 compared to £12.41 for everyday versions, according to the website canieatit.co.uk.
This is GFree Radio.
GFree Radio with me, Peter Stewart. Hello, how are you doing? Welcome to this brand new episode for a brand new year, and this is GFree Radio episode 36. Learn how to perfect your gluten-free baking in your own kitchen. There's a new series of baking courses. One of them is online. It's got a colourful comic book style. It's downloadable, obviously. It's called Gluten Free Baking Academy at Home, and it shows you how to add some kapow to your gluten-free baking repertoire. There's pictures at every stage of every method, so you know exactly what you're doing. You know exactly what the consistency should look like. You know exactly how you should be fluffing a meringue or beating an egg. So even if you're brand new to cooking and baking, this course is really easy to follow. No room for error, to be honest. It's part of two new GF cooking course ideas from Deborah and Ian Thackeray.
We've got go-to and at-home courses, and the go-to, clearly, you go to those 3 venues around the country, London, Wirral and Harrogate, and then the at-homes, you download the course books, and all you have to do is add the ingredients.
Now, I've not heard of anything like this in the past before, so do you think you're first to market in the UK with something like this, kind of training at home?
Very much so. There's a lot of online recipes and a lot of free content out there, but there's nothing that really truly shows you how to do it, like you would learn if you went on a course.
And what do you find the biggest problem when people are trying to cook gluten-free, that they need to be shown in pictures?
People just assume that you can substitute gluten-free flour for wheat-based flour and that normal recipes will work straight away, and they really don't. There are very different techniques and things feel very different. So you've got to start from scratch, really. It's like learning to bake all over again. And once you know what it's supposed to feel like, what a good gluten-free pastry does feel like, and what texture a good gluten-free bread should be like, then you can take those skills that you've learnt on the courses and transfer them to any other recipe that you might come across, because you'll have learnt the skills to be able to make the substitutions.
Very often when you see a recipe, perhaps for the first time, you think to yourself, well, hold on, exactly what is a knob of butter? What is a splash of milk? When you're starting from scratch, it's difficult to know what those kind of phrases mean, isn't it?
It is, and actually it highlights a very important point with gluten-free cooking and baking. The quantities are quite exact. You know, even a couple of grams out will affect whatever you're cooking or creating. So we've deliberately gone for a metric measurement, and we say to everybody, first thing you go and do, buy yourself a good set of digital scales, and then forget ounces, pounds, cups, sticks, whatever. It's got to be metric to get this right.
So metric is more precise, is it, than the imperial measurements?
Yes.
You can have it down to grams and very small quantities, whereas with ounces and balance scales, you don't get that kind of accuracy, and you definitely don't get that kind of accuracy with American cup measures either.
So what you seem to be saying is that the smallest change in a recipe, just a few grams over on one thing or a few grams under with something else, can really change the consistency of a recipe.
Exactly. And one of the things about coming on the courses is typically you say add an egg, Now, even if they're all medium-sized eggs, have different levels of liquid in them, and you need to know what the pastry or the bread dough is going to look like with one egg. And if it doesn't look right to start with, you need to know how much more liquid to add in, because maybe that egg was a little bit smaller than the last one you used, or it was a bit bigger. Those are the sorts of balancing things that we teach you.
And certainly before, I've looked at other people's recipes, and it says things like, if the consistency looks a little dry, add a bit more liquid. Now, what could be more vague than that? I mean, I've no idea whether that's dry or not.
Yes, so our course books show every stage of the process, a really detailed picture. We think that the way that they look is really cool and unique as well. We've designed them to look like a graphic novel or comic book. So every step is another sort of cartoon-like picture, but except it's a photograph of me doing one stage of the recipe and a really clear picture of what it should look like.
OK, so we're talking about two different things. There are some courses that you can go on and actually see Ian and Deborah in the flesh, as it were, up close and personal. And we're going to be talking about those in the future. But as far as these go, these are recipes with all the pictures as well. So you see, it's a step-by-step guide that you can download to your laptop or to your tablet, something like that, and actually flick through the pages. You can print them off as well, of course, and see step-by-step, direction by direction, every single step of the way in the kitchen as you go.
Yeah, it's important to really emphasise that these aren't recipes. These are detailed course books that you would expect if you were learning how to drive a car or pass some sort of physical test. You'd expect a book with detailed pictures in. This is not just a recipe.
So these are techniques on how to cook gluten-free as opposed to individual recipes.
Once you've mastered these techniques, you can then go and cook any recipe.
And you can start adapting your own recipes, presumably.
Indeed.
We've given several of the course books to various bloggers around the country to try out. The feedback that we've had from them has been really positive. People have said, this is the best bread I've ever tasted, that the cheesy scones are fantastic. Talking about the cheesy scones, we're offering that download for free at the moment so that people can have a go and see what it is that we're offering. When I'm teaching the courses, people come along and they don't know what they're in for in a day, and they all are a bit sort of nervous and shy. And then we start making the cheesy scones, and there's a moment about sort of 11 o'clock in the morning when suddenly you've got warm, delicious tasting cheesy scones straight out of the oven, and people go, wow, I haven't tasted anything like this for ages. This is amazing. And you can see everybody relax and go, yeah, I can do this. It's going to be fine. That feeling that people get when they come on the course is what I'm hoping to give them through these downloads. And that's why I think it's really worth people paying for this. I mean, the cheesy scones is free at the moment, and the whole set of the downloads are available for £10 on a special offer at the moment. But we think that you'll learn so much from that investment of £10. It'll absolutely transform your gluten-free baking skills.
So how can people download these? How can they sign up for your course?
Well, they go onto our website, which is www.glutenfreebaking.co.uk, and there are buttons and links from the site that will take you to our courses. Also, I put recipes on the website frequently. We publish a magazine, as you know, and there's lots of interesting information and content on our website too. But that's how they get the courses, from our website.
Ian and Deborah Thackeray. Info at glutenfreebaking.co.uk or glutenfreebaking.co.uk is their website address. So if you do get involved with that, if you do contact them, then say you heard about it on GFree Radio. And of course, the beauty of the online course, of course, is that you can have that wherever you are, whether you are in Scandinavia, the United Arab Emirates, Alberta, Canada, or where I hope to be going in a few weeks' time. Or shall I tease you? Yeah. If you're on one of the furthest away British protectorates in the whole of the globe, you could be there. You could be the place I'm going to in a couple of weeks' time. You could be there and still download and use the online gluten-free baking course, Ian and Deborah Thackeray. So I hope to be catching up with them several times during the course of 2014. Last week, of course, we heard from Craig McLean, the Olympic medal-winning athlete, track cyclist indeed. And I found that really, really fascinating, what he was saying about living as a celiac. And also I quizzed him a little bit about the carbs and the sugars and the irons and other things that you need to keep healthy as an ordinary member of the public, let alone as an Olympic medal-winning cyclist as well. So that was really fascinating. I can honestly say that some of what he said actually did strike home, and I have changed the way that I live and how I eat because of what he was saying. And this caught my eye a week or so ago from Anna Medaris Miller, published in the Washington Post, and she was doing a bit of marathon running and didn't feel as though she was performing quite as well as she could have done. And she worked out, she went to an expert, and they've told her that she's probably gluten sensitive, a less serious condition than celiac disease that nonetheless can come with such symptoms as diarrhea, bloating and joint pain, she says. Quite a long article. I shall give you the website details in a few moments' time, but essentially saying the idea that an endurance athlete's diet needs to include plenty of carbs, whether gluten-free spaghetti or gluten-free potatoes, is no longer gospel. What we used to say to endurance athletes is that 60 to 70% of their daily intake should be from carbs, says Leslie Bonci, Director of Sports Nutrition at the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center. Now they say that's unnecessary. If you're getting 50%, that's enough. And she says, this is Anna, since cutting gluten out of my diet in August last year, I've noticed a profound change. My digestion is gentler, my sleep is sounder, my energy level is more even. These benefits also seem to have led to improved athletic performance. Since going off gluten, I placed in a race for the first time in my adult life, won a small community biathlon and achieved a personal best in a 5K run. Most important, I felt good while I'm doing it. That's only about 2 paragraphs of a 3-page online article at WashingtonPost.com that you can read at your leisure. Many athletes tout the gluten-free way, but what is the science behind the claim? Still to come in this week's show, episode 36, we're going to be taking a look at some more alternative grains. This week, the spotlight falls on cornflour and maize flour, so we'll be looking at those alternative flours in a few moments' time. And also look at different kinds of breakfast cereals and mueslis, which are on the market at the moment. First of all, this from the Happy Celiac. At happyceliac.com, American spelling, happyceliac.com. 10 ways of staying motivated on a gluten-free diet. And they say eating is much more than the physical process of chewing and swallowing food. Ain't that the case? It's a means to socialise, build relationships, relax and satisfy a craving. Our relationship with food is frequently emotional. It can evoke memories. It's often central to creating new memories. Absolutely. I mean, socialising, it's parties, it's weddings, it's funerals, it's those kind of gatherings. It's taking someone out for a meal. It's a first date, isn't it? It's a meal at the pub with some friends after work. A gluten-free diet can impede the emotional connections associated with food and its consumption. It can limit access to social situations. Sorry, I can't come. I don't think there's going to be anything there for me to eat. And restrict our enjoyment of them while we're there. I'm feeling hungry. I then try the mini sausages. Adhering to a gluten-free diet can at times feel more life-limiting than life-giving. I think it's really appropriate to bring this at the start of a new year, because what he says is, for those moments of weakness, temptation and pressure, here are the methods I use to staying gluten-free. Very, very short, really, really interesting bullet points. Let's see how many of these that you might agree with.
1.
Why? It's all too easy to get consumed with how. Instead, take some time to remind yourself of why you're on a gluten-free diet. Remember the symptoms, the long-term health impacts, and what your life was like before you went gluten-free.
2.
Toughen up. Suck it up, buttercup. This is it. Celiac disease is part of your life. There's no cure, no magic pill, so it's just your choice. Be miserable or be motivated.
3.
Vent. Sometimes, okay, you've just got to get it all out. Get rid of all that frustration, disappointment, anger, and negative thoughts. Don't bottle it up. Let it all out. Then, most importantly, get over it.
4.
Take control practically. Gluten-free processed foods are, in the majority, overpriced, lacking taste, diminutive, and nutritionally empty. These foods only perpetuate the idea that a gluten-free diet is a punishment requiring special needs foods. Remove your reliance on pre-prepared gluten-free foods. Learn to cook. I think I can tell you of a couple of interesting courses. There are thousands of amazing recipes out there that are naturally gluten-free, taste amazing, and cost a fraction of the price of a miniature loaf of gluten-free bread.
5.
Take control emotionally. Monitor your thoughts. If negative thoughts are constantly going through your mind, you're never going to be happy. Don't be so entrenched with the negative aspects of a gluten-free diet that you're blind to the benefits.
6.
Be proactive. Don't expect friends and family to immediately know how to cater for your needs. Take the time to explain and be patient as they get to grips with your new diet.
7.
STFU. Yeah, you're on a gluten-free diet, but don't be one of those people that goes on and on about their food intolerances. Everyone has their own issues in life, and they don't need to hear about yours constantly. If you continually talk about celiac disease and being gluten-free, it'll eventually define you, and you are more than your diagnosis. The heading, STFU. Yeah? Shut up.
8.
Create positivity. Find positive affirmations that connect with you. Put them on your phone, computer, stick it on your fridge, in your lunchbox, your coffee mug, whatever. Change them frequently so they continue to resonate.
9.
Perspective. You've changed your diet, but did you change your perspective? Every day, millions of people are suffering the health consequences of poor diet choices. Fast food and crap diets are causing high blood pressure, heart attacks and obesity, to name just a few. Being gluten-free is your opportunity for a symptom-free life, well-being, and to ultimately place your health as a priority over food.
10.
Yes, but if despite all this you've decided to eat gluten and have a normal meal with friends or family, make sure that you alone have made the decision. If you do fall off the wagon, then accept that you will be ill the next few days and make the appropriate arrangements to allow yourself the time to physically recover.
Follow us on Twitter. We're at GFree Radio.
So it's New Year, the very start, January, February, March. We thought that kind of fitted with the start of a new day. You know, the first few hours of getting up, of sorting out the day, of eating breakfast. And I caught up with Hazel, who on Twitter is GF Hazelnut, to talk about the current range of cereals and mueslis on the market. And this is ahead of the start of our series of interviews with manufacturers of GFree breakfast food that starts next week on the show.
There's some really exciting porridge at the moment, and it's some of it is not with just oats. It's made with millet, buckwheat and rice flakes, so anybody that is slightly sensitive to the oats can actually go for it. Also, I've noticed lately as well, lots of granola coming out, and that's relatively new to British shelves.
You're preferring the porridges with something in? Are you a taste of cinnamon or pieces of apple or bits of fruit or something like that?
If I see a porridge like that, I will do it, because mainly when you find people eat porridge, they do add their own fruit anyway. And so having things like gingerbread added and things like that, it makes it more exciting. Don't forget, oats do last longer in your system, so they do make you feel fuller when you're working through the day.
Certainly they're good for you, yes, because it's that slow energy release, isn't it, which is good, and also especially in the winter. Tell me about the gingerbread porridge, though. This sounds intriguing. I don't think I've come across that.
This is one of the perkier foods that's recently come out.
There's Nens as well, who have just got into the kind of the breakfast individual porridge pots, as have Tesco's and a few other supermarkets have decided to launch their own porridge pots of gluten-free porridge.
All the major supermarkets now are bringing out the porridge. Don't forget, Nens also you can get on prescription.
What about the mousses? I must mention, actually, the company which I met at the Allergy and Free From show a couple of months ago, and this is Rose's Gluten Free. Now, this is a company from the Netherlands, and they do a whole range of porridge oats with apple, crunchy muesli, apple, cinnamon, and one with strawberry as well. So they've got quite a range. You can get them online. They don't have a Twitter or anything like that. And I haven't seen them in any of the shops over here, but it's really some unusual things, some really unusual taste there going on.
Nature's Path, they're on the shelves, a granola type muesli. Eat Natural do some crunchy, not quite granola, but a crunchy type breakfast.
You know what? I've got that in front of me at the moment. Both of those you just mentioned. The Eat Natural gluten-free toasted muesli with vine nuts, which is really tasty. It's really different. Juicy raisins, sultana, sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, linseeds, roasted almonds and honey. These are usually around about £3. All of these we're mentioning, about £3 for 450, 500 grams, something like that. I have noticed that what used to be 500-gram packets have recently gone down to 450 grams, but they're still staying around about the £3 mark. So they're keeping the price the same, but reducing the amount in there. And you just mentioned there, Hazel, the Nature's Path granola. I have to say, I think they were probably my favourite. The two different flavours, the blueberry, raspberry, strawberry and yoghurt chunks one. And also, that's in the purple pack. There's also one in the orange pack, which I finished the other day. Quite expensive, not much in a pack, but actually I treat myself on a Sunday morning to those.
That's it. I think you've got to look at them as a treat. And not only that, sometimes I mix them with a plain cereal. It spreads further, and especially like if you've got a family. Cereals are expensive anyway, and I just really wish that the price would come down. It's a good job we have got some on prescription. I just don't know how families do afford these cereals. Aldi at the moment are doing some mixes that you can mix in with cereals, and there's goji berry and linseed and things like that, and they're not too expensive. So if you do want to start making your own, there's some there that you can go for.
So I don't know whether you're aware of Alara. Goji berries and cranberries, a satisfying mix of crunchy gluten-free cereals with goji berries, tangy cranberries and seeds. You can get onto their website and you can custom create your own combination of different fruits and seeds and nuts, so you get it tailor-made exactly for you. Probably costs a little bit more, but you can choose your own percentages of all those different ingredients.
I haven't actually heard of Alara, and as you're saying that, I thought, ooh, I might look at that one.
Okay, so that's alara.co.uk, and I've just been looking to see if I've got an address for the Roses cereals. Oh, here we go, roses-food.nl. And also with Roses, they have a lovely little pack where the sides of the cardboard pack open up to either produce ears for an owl, which is pictured on the front, or ears for a monkey, which is pictured on the front. So that's rather nice. If you've got kids, then you can make your breakfast cereal a bit more fun. What about the different purpose-made for celiacs breakfast cereals? Because I know Hale and Hearty do a range, and also Javala do a range, also Dove's Farm as well.
I think they sort of more aim at the children's market, them, don't they? Sleep Farm as well, they do some of their own range. And be careful with sugar in my cereals. And if you look at some of them, I think they are aimed more at the children.
I do like the kind of nutty flavour, the almost malty flavour of some of these flakes, like the maize sunrise ones. They're a little bit like the Perkia, he said, reaching over. Here we go. And other companies do these as well, whole grain flakes with berries that they've brought out. Kind of Special K kind of taste. I'm not entirely sure what it is, but it is rather nice. It says on the side that it's made with rice flour and buckwheat flour, so that's probably it.
The Perkia breakfast cereal, I love. It's so crunchy. It doesn't go soggy. The Maize Sunrise, that has been a long time favourite for me since it first came out. So we've got choice there out there on the shelves now. And that is excellent. That's just what celiacs want.
You do have to check the contents, because I'm noticing here the nutritional value of one granola I'm looking at per 100 grams, 389 kcals, and per 100 grams of another granola I'm looking at 467.
Every celiac that I talk to, they all say too much sugar, too much fat. And when we look at the labels, we look for that as well to make sure that we're safe to eat it, but also that there's not a high fat and not a high sugar content in there.
Now, I know that you've written about this subject extensively on your blog. Before we go, remind us how people can follow you on Twitter and also how they can read your blog. Where are you?
I'm on Twitter as at GF Hazelnut, but the hazel is spelled Hazle. And my blog is chattydaisyGF.blogspot.co.uk.
GFree Radio, we're nearly at the end for another week, and thank you for the loan of your ears so far. Finally, let's continue with the series that we started the other side of the Christmas New Year break, looking at various alternative grains, alternative flours that you may want to cook with. And this week, courtesy of deglutinous.com, that's DEGLUTENOUS, quick look at corn flour and maize flour. And they point out, the first thing to point out is the same thing is called different things in different parts of the world when we're talking about corn starches and flours, certainly between the UK, US and Australia, and possibly in other markets in other parts of the world as well. Corn flour in Australia and the UK is what's in the United States and I guess Canada as well, what they call corn starch. So corn flour and corn starch, the same thing. In Australia, there's also corn flour made from wheat. So you've got to be really, really careful. You're buying the corn version. And what in Australia they call maize flour is the same as the US's corn flour, or more commonly used cornmeal. So various different things there. Cornmeal, corn flour and corn starch, some of which are the same thing, others are markedly different, and some of which could be the same but actually have a bit of wheat in anyway. Boy, oh boy, very, very careful. So do look for, I didn't realise that, do look for the little cross-grain symbol or the note saying that it is gluten-free. So first of all, let's look at corn flour in the Australian and UK version. So corn starch then is a fine white powder separated from the protein and the other components of maize flour. What is left is purely starch. That's why the Americans call it corn starch, which kind of makes sense as well. It has no taste. It's most commonly used as a thickener by, first of all, yeah, you've got to combine it with some cold water to make a paste, haven't you? If you just tip it into a soup or a stew or something, it'll just kind of glob up, which isn't very pleasant. But it's really, really good for thickening sauces and soups and stews and gravy. If you used flour for those, it would make the dish cloudy, but this doesn't if you use corn flour / corn starch. Maize flour, on the other hand, is the entire corn kernel milled into flour, and it contains protein and fat as well. The grind can vary from fine to coarse. You know what I'm going to say when I say coarse maize flour, because that's polenta. And use it for different things depending on how finely that flour is ground up. So fine maize flour for making breads, Mexican tortillas or cornbread, which is rather more dense than your normal bread. Coarse maize flour, polenta, and of course you can use that as a substitute for potatoes in a main dish, or of course you can have it in a cake. Slightly gritty in a cake, isn't it? But it does add a slightly unusual texture. I do a very good honey and lemon and polenta cake, even though I say so myself. And also, coarse maize flour is really good for an alternative, as I say, to potato. Also, couscous, alternative to that as a side dish. Serve it with meats or fish, seafood. You could even coat your meat and fish and seafood with that kind of grain before frying it up. So it's an alternative to a wheat-based kind of batter, if you like. And also, as I mentioned, those dense, moist cakes. It's quite a different flavour and texture as well. It's really, really interesting. If you want to read more about that, deglutinous.com. They've got a whole range of comparing different flours and so on, a couple of which we've already mentioned over our series. Talking about the series, well, next week we continue with our series looking at different breakfast cereals. So we'll speak to one of the producers behind those packets that you reach for bleary-eyed first thing in the morning, or maybe you have as a bit of a snack later on. Maybe when you get home from work, your meal's a few hours away, or maybe you give it to the kids when they've got back from a club or a meeting or something like that. And also, very, very pleased to say that we've confirmed our interview with the chief executive, none less, of Celiac UK. That is the main charity which supports people with celiac disease and those who are gluten-free and fights for the rights of those. They produce a fantastic website and a mobile phone app which is coming soon. And also they're very, very well known in the United Kingdom for producing a book for members every single year. It must be a labour of love. Which lists every single food item that you can buy from a supermarket or grocery store which is gluten-free. They check with all the manufacturers, and also they update it every single month as well. They check with all the manufacturers, whether it be chocolate bars or whether it be ready meals or whether it be, we just mentioned, your baking products, like your gluten-free items, like baking powder, or whatever it is, right across the range. It's a really thick book. Must go to a couple of hundred pages. I'm looking forward to receiving mine at the start of the new year, so that should be coming any day soon, and is really, really invaluable. So Sarah Sleet, the chief executive of Celiac UK, is on the programme next week. If you've got a question for her, then do drop me a line. It is GFree Radio at hotmail.com. Be really, really pleased to pass on your question. So it could be something about the running of the organisation or what they hope to be doing in the future, or maybe something that they haven't done in the past. What was behind the delay in launching the app, which I think we're still waiting for, and also the website as well. That had teething problems, didn't it? Where are they spending the money that you give them each year as a member? What are their initiatives? How are they fighting? Are they representing us in Parliament or to the food manufacturers? What are they doing about maybe bringing down prices? Can they do anything about bringing... Whatever your question is, please get in touch. It's gfreeradio at hotmail.com, and we'll speak to Sarah. In fact, the interview is scheduled for this coming Monday, so unless something goes a little bit wrong, we should be having her interview on the programme next week, in episode 37 indeed.
And that was the GFree Radio Show with Peter Stewart. And you. Thanks for listening. And remember, until next time, be good, be healthy, and be GFree.